Welcome to Lecture 11, where we're going to discuss how do you motivate employees, the Harvard Business Review paper by Frederick Herzberg. We touched on this a little bit in our discussions about the evolution of motivational theories. This, I think, is one of the more actionable theories of motivation, which is why I want to spend a little bit more time on it. I want to go over some of it again, re-emphasize some of it, and why I want you to read the paper. This paper of this title that Herzberg wrote as part of this course. And he notes that psychology of motivation is very complex and that there's a dismal ratio of knowledge to speculation. So a lot of folks speculating without being able to prove things. But yet this does not dampen the enthusiasm for new forms of snake oil. And if you want to see any of that, go to any large bookstore and wander through the business and management aisles, bookshelves, and you'll see plenty of popular press books that promise you that they'll be able to help you figure out how to motivate people without any real empirical data behind it. So Herzberg's talking about the results of his research into this topic, and let's start with the myths about motivation. A kick in the butt, kidda is not motivation. If I kick my dog, he will move. If I want him to move again, I need to kick him again. He's not motivated. I have not motivated him. I forced him or her to move. You can recharge someone's battery over and over, but when someone develops their own generator, when they're motivated from inside, when they create their own energy to go after things and accomplish things, then they've become motivated. So hygiene versus motivators. How do you install a generator? Well, let's take a quick review of Herzberg's motivation hygiene factor theory. Factors that produce job satisfaction and motivation along with it are separate and distinct from factors that cause dissatisfaction. This is the key to Herzberg's findings, that satisfaction and dissatisfaction are not opposites. The causes of satisfaction and dissatisfaction are not merely the inverse of one. That condition A causes satisfaction, so if I just flip it around and have the inverse of condition A, it will cause dissatisfaction. That's not true. They're caused by different things, by different characteristics, by different situations, by different behaviors of people around you. And we can explain this by looking at the two kinds of needs in people, the animal needs and those that are uniquely human. The animal needs, a built-in drive to avoid pain, drives conditioned to biological needs, like you get hungry. When you get hungry, you want to eat. Well, buying food requires money, so money becomes a drive, becomes a drive, an animal drive. But what are the uniquely human characteristics? The ability to achieve and experience psychological growth. No other species does this to our knowledge. Certainly not to the degree that humans do. So in the organizational context, which is what we care about in an engineering management course, this is job content. The content of someone's job, of my job and your job, allows us to achieve and allows us to experience psychological growth. They're uniquely human characteristics and they are motivators. They cause job satisfaction. They motivate people to do a great job. So these growth or motivator factors, they're intrinsic to the job. They're part of the job. It's the opportunity for achievement, recognition for that achievement, the nature of the work itself, the level of responsibility that you get to take on, and the growth, the personal growth and the organizational advancement. These are all things that are tightly bound to the job. They're intrinsic to the job that you have. The dissatisfaction avoidance or hygiene factors, kidda factors, are extrinsic to the job. They're not tightly bound to what the job is itself. There are things like company policy, administration, the quality of your supervision, interpersonal relationships with other folks at work, the working conditions, salary, status, security. These are all things that, although they're related to the job, obviously working conditions are what the conditions you do your job in. Salary is what you get paid for your job, but they're not the actual performance of the job. There's Exhibit 1 in his paper. I'll refer you back to that for the data. Two major conclusions. Motivators cause satisfaction. hygiene factors cause unhappiness, ergo dissatisfaction. And this is why I spend this time going through this theory again, just reiterating these points, because this is very actionable. We as practicing managers can take this model and act on it. If motivators are the primary cause of satisfaction, the people that you lead, make it possible for them to achieve this satisfaction, to have these motivators. I'm going to back up a couple of charts here. Make it possible for them to achieve things. Give them recognition, responsibility, growth, and advancement. The hygiene factors, which are the primary cause of unhappiness, control them to the best of your ability. Obviously, when you're low in the organizational chain, you may not be able to influence company policy. Administration, perhaps you could run interference for your folks. Supervision, that's you. So obviously you affect that. So don't let these things turn into demotivators. The motivation hygiene theory suggests that work can be enriched. If a job can be made to be satisfying, then people will be motivated. The job will get done better. Will bring about more effective use of personnel. This is not merely enlarging the meaninglessness of a job. And what Herzberg is referring to here is in the 1980s, late 1980s, there was things where folks would say, well, if we put a bigger challenge in front of people, they'll be more motivated. Or let's give them something different to do, or maybe let's rotate them through jobs. And Herzberg's point here is that it's the intrinsic nature of a job that's motivating. And going to a different place in the office or a different place on the plant floor and doing another job that's devoid of motivators, that's as dissatisfying as the other one that you had, and perhaps is encumbered with hygiene factors, with demotivators, doesn't help. You're just being demotivated in a different locale, in a different set of situations than you were before. This is referred to as horizontal job loading. And in Herzberg's paper, he goes into somewhat detail about how to actually go through a process of designing a job. And we will not cover that here in this lecture, although it is an important part of the paper. So hopefully you guys have read it, and if you haven't, get back and read it now, because it is important. That kind of sums up this, or concludes this discussion. We went over this again in a previous lecture on the whole development of the theory of motivation, but this is just so actionable. It's so immediately actionable to everyone who's a manager. I just wanted to reiterate this and emphasize it again. So hopefully you found this useful, and I look forward to our next discussion. Thank you very much for your attention.